It's the first edition of Capital Market in February. Thank you very much for joining us again. I'm Temple Ashaju. Now, this week saw the listing of a major airline company in the Nigerian Stock Exchange, a development that gave impetus to the investing community, wondering what the future of an aviation company will be this time after two others were delisted. On the debt side of the capital market, Wednesday's Nigerian Treasury bills auction by the Apex Bank saw the sale of 45.18 billion naira, 80 billion naira, and 177.22 billion naira of the 91, 182, and 364-day bills. The 364-day bill was oversold by 60 billion naira. At the bonds market, investors also became bullish on federal government bonds as yields contracted more. But beyond the week, the equity market ended in red in the month of January. The all-share index dragged 3.12% to 26,036.24. Here are just the tidbits of these activities that we track on capital markets. On the program this evening, we'll bring you more details, and that's just as we'll be joined shortly by a market operator to evaluate some of the proceedings of the week. Now let's get started. During the week, the Med-Airline, over 9.5 billion shares were admitted to the Nigerian Stock Exchange at 1 naira 50 kobo. Now, describing the significance of the listing to the investing community at the NSE on the day of listing, the Chief Executive Officer, Mr. Oscar Onyema, says Medview has added over 14 billion naira to the market capitalization of the bourse. Watch.
Med-Airline Airlines PLC is one of Nigeria's foremost airlines, airlifting more than 3 million passengers and 46 million tons of cargo annually to 14 local, regional, and international destinations, including London, Accra, Jeddah, Abuja, and Lagos, amongst others. When the MD CEO approached us with his financial advisors for approval to list on the exchange, we went through a rigorous process to determine that Med-Airline Airlines meets the listing standards of the Nigerian Stock Exchange. With this listing, the company is showing its commitment to a culture of strong corporate governance, excellence, professionalism, and efficient services to its passengers, as well as providing increased returns to its shareholders. Today's listing by introduction of 9.75 billion ordinary shares of Med-Airline Airlines on the main board of the Nigerian Stock Exchange at a listing price of 1 naira 50 kobo per share is a culmination of several months of hard work by all parties to the transaction, including the Securities and Exchange Commission and the Nigerian Stock Exchange. This listing has added 14.65 billion naira to the market capitalization of the exchange, further deepening the Nigerian capital market.
That's Oscar Onyema, the Chief Executive of the Nigerian Stock Exchange. But the level of global regulation on the Nigerian aviation industry is a guarantee for the listing of Med-Airline Airline on the Nigerian Stock Exchange. That's according to the Chief Executive, Mr. Munir Bankole, who says that the current regulatory environment has changed from the era when Albarca Airline and ADC Airline were delisted from the stock exchange.
As you rightly said, we have an historical history that one or two airlines have passed through the NSE at that particular time, not the same NSE of today, and not the environment as of today. We have something in the industry called IOSA Satisfied, which if an airline plays in that corridor, which IATA created over years, to avail every airline to meet the safety requirement standard and security consciousness, and that is what makes the industry today more safer and more clarified. It is one of the things the President and our team, which I've already mentioned in my briefing at the Council, that the Nigerian government setting up an airline must be private-driven, and it has to be public quoted, because it is only for Nigerian people who will appreciate the industry. So because what we have today, that you see Medview coming to the eyes of the world, is to tell the whole world that it is durable. as something that is everybody's mind, is that aviation is no-go area. And this is a testimony that it has changed the concept. For me and my colleagues, it's a drive that we have chosen to come here to tell all Nigerians and tell everybody. That's why you have the word on our logo, that the airline of Nigeria. Giving something back to Nigeria, because we serve over 30 years and above, and we've had no other business to do. We have been in the industry. We have passion for it. We grow with it. And we are telling everybody that it is a market that people need to invest into.
Again, that's the CEO of Med-Airline, Mr. Munir Bankole. Now, the listing of Med-Airline on the Nigerian Stock Exchange has also been described as an indication of the confidence in the aviation industry. But the Minister of State for Aviation, Mr. Hadi Sirika, said this while addressing journalists on this same development. And Mr. Sirika, who wants more companies to emulate the example of Medview, interprets the listing as the government's responsiveness to the industry's challenges.
It also means that the airlines are getting healthier, and it equally means that government is responsive and responsible enough to identify reason for setting up companies to also be able to help sustain and nurse them and develop them so that they will provide service and then employ our people. So I think this is very good for us. It's a plus. And it shows the confidence that Nigerians are beginning to have once more on our industry. And we thank each and every one, and then other entrepreneurs that are doing business within the aviation sector or transportation in general. We would employ you to copy from Medview to get your acts together and ensure that going forward you're doing what is correct, what is right within the law, and then promoting your business in such a way that you'll provide needed service for development of our country in general.
Now, that's the Minister of Aviation, Minister of State for Aviation, and that's Mr. Hadi Sirike. Now, we also have gotten the side of the regulator, we have the side of the issuer, and of course we have the side of government. We need to get the perspective of the dealing community, the broker-dealer community. And on the show this evening, we've brought to you a guest from Pan-African Capital. He is Mr. Tunde Oyekunle. He's the Vice President at Pan-African Capital. Thank you very much for joining us. You are in charge of equity capital at Pan-African Capital. Now, looking at what we've seen, going down memory lane, we've had ADC listed in the stock exchange. We also once had Albarika Air listed as well. What exactly led to the delisting of these companies, and what do you think is going to happen to this new one, Medview, that is coming as a sort of a replacement for these two companies, airlines that have been delisted before?
Well, as you've said specifically, we had a couple of aviation companies listed on the floor of the Nigerian Stock Exchange. Specifically, we have ADC and we have Albarika Airlines. And, you know, it was a good development. We were happy to have them. However, they had issues relating to operations and finance issues that led to them being moribund. At the time, the stock were not very traded on because people did not believe because of the issues they were having. That led to the listing on the floor of Nigeria Stock Exchange from the daily official list. But for Medview, I would say it's a very good development, not for Medview alone, but from the Nigerian Stock Exchange and the investing community as a whole. And looking at their track record, I can see a lot of boldness. Not just boldness, they are very strategic to come and list at this particular time, listing of 9.75 billion shares at 1.50 kobo. And as has been said, it contributed about over 14 billion to the Nigerian market capitalization of the Nigerian Stock Exchange. It's a very good development. And for the company, I think it will increase their brand visibilities, their corporate image, their ability to asset long-term and short-term fund, both in the local and international market. I think is a very good one. The company is coming boldly to say, yes, we stand for excellence, we stand for discipline, we stand for professionalism, and at the same time, we are ready to deliver value to shareholders. So I commend commend them. And from the kind of experience I've seen in the company, I've seen a lot of discipline. So all what I feel is required is to support Medville. Having back an innovation company listed on the floor of Nigerian Stock Exchange is a very good one and commendable.
The moment they listed as 1 naira 50 kobo, we see the share price rising to 2 naira. I don't know how much you traded on the floor on that particular zone, but what is responsible for that move? I mean, they listed by introduction.
Yes, it was listed by introduction, and you know, for listing by introduction, they must have gone through some valuation that made us to agree, that made the NSE to agree the listing at 1 naira 50 kobo. But it's about value. It's about where the company is coming from. Right. It's about their future projection, what they want to do. The company has been able to do a lot regarding their moving into regional part of Africa. You know, they've done a lot to have their flight to UK. A whole lot have done. And now they want to expand to flying to United States of America. So during the list, fact behind the listing, they exposed a lot of plans that makes people to understand what they want to do, and that putting value into that. That
gave rise to that sentiment. All right, we'll still come back to you, but let's go now for the earnings. And of course, this week we had some earnings that trickled into the markets, beginning with PZ Cussons. This week, PZ Cussons released its 6 months earnings for the period ended November the 30th, 2016. PZ recorded a marginal growth in revenue despite the difficult macroeconomic environment. The reduction in its cost of sales through the streamlining of product portfolio led to a healthy growth in gross profit, and operating expenses is kept under control during the period under review. Operating profits also grew significantly as a result of improved efficiency. The FMCG, however, incurred a significant foreign exchange loss of 4.94 billion naira. Now, indigenous petroleum marketing company Forte Oil also released its audited financial statements for the year ended December 31, 2016 this week. Revenue grew by 19.25% to 148.60 billion naira from 124.61 billion naira in 2015. The revenues from lubricants and greases grew significantly by 85.45% compared to the preceding year, while other components increased slightly, except chemical production, which declined by 4.25% year-on-year. Cost of sale rose by 20.53%. And Vitafoam's first quarter earnings was also one of the results that trickled into the markets this week. The numbers show revenue increased year-on-year by 17.19%, while profit after tax declined 22.74% from 108 billion naira in 2015 to 83 billion naira in the period under review. And now let's get back to business with our guest. What can you say about this earnings? PZ Cussons specifically that depends on FX, to bring in raw materials. How will you say this change the landscape for the business?
Well, it's important. The issue of foreign exchange management is very important and key to all quoted companies now, especially those that, drives their raw material by importation, and PZ is certainly one of them. And over the years, if you see their result, they are able to record about 8.8% growth in turnover to 33 billion. And when you want to analyze that, you want to say what is responsible. The major input to that was the fact that they were able to increase the price of their product across all their product lines, and that has not really translated into volumes because of the weak consumer real income that we're having. So volume has not increased, but higher price has been able to drive and made them to have that increase in revenue. But a major issue that affected PZ was the foreign exchange losses.
Everybody knows that.
Yeah.
Let's switch to Forte Oil that actually realized some losses too. Specifically, they have challenge with the cost of doing business because of cost of sales that grew by over 20%. Talk more to us about this, how it impacted the business.
It impacted the business because it certainly affected their margin. Margin dropped for Forte Oil, and that affected the bottom line significantly. In 2015, they were able to record over 5 billion, but now they have just 2.9 billion. Okay. So that affected.
I think we should keep the rest on Forte Oil for our return from the break. Right now, we'll go on a short break, and when we return, we'll continue with this discussion.